For Global Business Update, Michael Wilson joins us now from London. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Doctor. Shares in Asia Pacific been a bit of a spooky Monday, really, for lots of reasons, mainly because of growing COVID concerns in China, which kept its benchmark rate as it was, in line with expectations. But some breaking news this morning is that Hong Kong's leader John Lee, who was meeting President Xi of China, has tested positive for COVID. So that's a story which will no doubt add to the COVID concerns. In mainland China, the Shanghai Composite fell about 1%. Shanghai Component fell about the same as well. Chinese real estate or property stocks have done really well so far this month. They had an injection of confidence. Investors have been helped by the Central Bank of China, but analysts warn it may be too soon to celebrate. There's a lot of trouble to get through, according to analysts, and prices and sales have fallen, and it will, according to them, take a long time for developers to actually come up to where they used to be. But it looks like a relatively positive start. You know that a new global climate deal has been struck finally at the COP27 conference in Egypt. Government ministers from 200 countries were experiencing a lot of difficulty yesterday, but overnight they got to it, or rather in the early hours of yesterday morning. They reaffirmed their efforts to limit global temperature rise to the crucial temperature threshold of 1.5 degrees, but they also, and this was the point, that poorer countries are actually wanting some compensation through what they describe as a loss and damage fund, according to about the economic growth and the damage to their own climates caused by what they think is climate change as a result of the developing world. But as you will not be surprised about, the actual details about how much that's going to be and who will actually pay it were not agreed at that COP27. Let me take you to the United States, and again, it's going to be a rather strange week, really. It'll be very short because of the Thanksgiving Day holiday in the United States, so a quiet Friday and a quiet Wednesday. However, people will be looking very, very closely at the Black Friday figures, which are also absolutely crucial for companies to. It's called Black Friday because it's when a lot of retail actually gets out of the red, as it were, and into the black. And there's a lot of offers. I don't know what it's like. I mean, this has now become a global phenomenon, and offers have started coming in a week early. Just to remind you, as far as retail sales, yes, they did increase in the United States, but when you look at the corporate side of things, both Target and Amazon reported slowing demand. Amazon reporting it'll lay off 10,000 employees. That was last week. And Home Depot and Walmart have given strong results as well. But the thought about that is richer consumers going to find deals in lower priced shops. Disney has seen a bit of a massive turnaround. Bob Iger has returned as the Disney chief executive, effective immediately. Now he's only been gone 11 months from Disney, but as you know, Disney has been worrying about the extra cost of Disney Plus, and also ad revenues have been falling throughout that particular industry. So there's a lot of work to do, but a big corporate turnaround for Disney. We talked about FTX last week. Again, the figures just keep going up. $3.1 billion I have owed to its biggest creditors. Again, I wonder if that means a lot of money to you, or a little compared in global terms. What I can tell you is that the number is well over 1 million people and companies actually owed money by this. And of course, what it's done as far as the cryptocurrency market is concerned, and not necessarily out of truth, but out of sentiment, and of course that's what a lot of it depends on, is to reduce its stature considerably. Let's turn our attention to the EU, and industry there is actually pivoting to the United States, because the Biden green technology legislation, remember the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA, that Biden actually brought in, a lot of a lot of incentives for companies, particularly using green technology, to start in the United States. It's not limited to those within the United States, and thus a lot of people are joining that, getting money from the American government, Germany in particular, and also Asian economies too. And everybody wants to remain competitive with each other. Let me bring you to the UK finally, and businesses now urging, they have the thing called the CBI, which is the Confederation of British Industry. Basically, it's a bosses event, and it's happening in Birmingham, which is in the Midlands of the UK. And Sunak will be getting some advice about, hey, come on, we need some help here, and also we need skilled migration to help the job shortages in the UK. That's the kind of message that will be sent towards him. And as far as oil concerned, well, I have mentioned many times in the past that oil, however important one thinks it is only a commodity, and its price depends upon demand and supply. I don't need to tell you this, but at the moment it's going through what's called demand destruction, and a lot of technical selling at the moment. It happens day by day, but what's happening in China and maybe further lockdowns coming are not helping the overall price. That's the global view for this Monday morning.
All right, real quickly, business leaders are trying to force the hands of Rishi Sunak to still look the way of the EU. I'm sure Brexiteers are miffed as a result of that. I mean, what's your take on that? And secondly, I'd like to ask you, what's this madness going on Twitter? The man has ruined the company. He's set it on fire. Probably I'll use the words of British singer Adele this morning. He set fire to the rain in Twitter. What's going on? And FTX, is anybody going to go to jail?
FTX, anybody going to go to jail? Oh, yes. But I have no idea how. I don't know what Mr. Bankfield-Fried is feeling this morning as he starts the Thanksgiving week. Maybe he will escape jail because he doesn't actually live in the... I have absolutely no idea. I'm sure a lot of people would feel that it's about time that somebody did actually regulate micros and cryptos and all the rest of it. It's really difficult to do. And, you know, as usual, I'm sure I don't need to tell you that when you start legislating and you start trying to bring people to court in the financial sector, very, very difficult indeed. In fact, in this country, you probably are not old enough to remember, but I was certainly a starting journalist at the time, and there were a lot of scandals about the City of London. And one of the judges said, you know what, we can't have jury trials here because this is too complicated for the jury to understand. This is the problem with these kind of things. So will somebody go to jail? Possibly. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I just have no idea. As far as the madness of Twitter is concerned, well, over the weekend, all right, I was chatting to a few people who know about these things, know a lot more than I do, particularly about aerospace and the rest of it. And I said to somebody, actually, it was wonderful to see in the recent documentary the rocket taking off and then landing upright from where it had started, which has to be, in other words, it's not disposable. It goes up, it goes to where it's going, and then it comes down again. Now, to achieve that, you have to attract some of the finest technological brains. There's no question that Elon Musk did this. Where is his brain at the moment? Is it with Tesla? Is it with SpaceX? Is it with something else? Is it with Twitter? What is Twitter going to be? As I said on Friday, it wouldn't be my kind of company to work for. I like my bosses to know where they're going and to tell me where that journey is going to go. Twitter, I have absolutely no idea whatsoever. The CBI talking to Sunak and the EU. Well, all right, let's do the Brexit thing, shall we? All right, so it's a big export market. Do you actually want to be linked to economies like Germany and France and Italy and Spain? Do I need to remind you? I'm sure I don't. What their borrowing is in contrast with their GDP. Is it higher than the UK's? Yes, it certainly is. Is inflation biting them? Yes, it certainly is. Have they done enough to make sure that their own energy supplies are as independent as possible from what's going on between Ukraine and Russia? No, they haven't. Do I want to be linked with? Do I want to be linked with countries like that who have that sort of shuttered view about things? No, I don't. However, do I want poor neighbours? No, I don't. Does that therefore mean that we need some kind of market agreement with them? It possibly does. That's what the CBI is saying. But they're also saying, and I think this is incredibly important, they're saying that we want skilled migrants to come to this country, as this country has always had its open doors to skilled migrants, to help get rid of the labour shortages in this country. Sounds eminently sensible to me. Nothing to do with Brexit. This is straight commercialism, mercantilism, if you wish.
All right, so Iger returning to Disney, good move at this point, or perhaps should they have given Chapek a bit more time, bearing in mind that he came on board just before the pandemic, and of course on the theme parks and decisions that had to be made. Difficult time for anyone, a big businesses like Disney. Good time, or perhaps should have waited a bit more for Chapek? What's your take on this?
My take on it is I wouldn't like his job. He's got a lot of things to think about. He's got, on his side is the fact that what the Americans describe as the legacy media businesses, i.e. the ones which are much older, are going to have to go through the pain of competing with streaming and the rest of it long before Disney has. The fact of the matter is that Disney Plus has been too expensive. What Disney has, of course, is a commercial operation. It's got commercial branding around the world, and it's also got theme parks as well. So Iger is taking over at a crucial moment. And there is clearly something wrong in Mickey Mouse's house right now, and Iger is there to put it right. It's only been 11 months, and it's been a tumultuous 11 months for Disney. A good time depends how adventurous you are. I suspect it'll be a good time for him to prove once again that he's the right person to run Disney, if indeed he does. That's what I'd say.
Okay, how much of a breakthrough really is the loss and damage fund that 200 200 countries are planning to set up, which was agreed upon yesterday at Sharm el-Sheikh over greenhouse gases and damages for poor and developing countries. Considering the fact that Saudi Arabia and Russia blocked any talks, any commitment with regard to greenhouse gas emissions and fossil fuels, what is the guarantee that that loss and damage commitment will translate into climate justice, which is what many countries like Pakistan, like Barbados and co are asking for. That's one. Number two, the CBI, yes, meeting today, 190,000 leaders of businesses. Tony Danker, the boss of that organization, granted an interview to BBC, and he was saying basically that the plan, the autumn statement released by the Chancellor does not go far enough at all because it just addresses stability, but there is no indication that there will be any growth in the next 10 years and that the government still needs to do a lot more. And he, in fact, thinks that the Sunak government needs to look at aspects of the proposal by Kwateng. And I think you referred to part of that when you talked about immigration. But what is this thing about this Swiss deal, Swiss-style deal, which number 10 says is not on the table at all, because as senior Tory MPs are saying, it will amount to surrendering the sovereignty of the United Kingdom after Brexit?
Point number two, first of all, absolutely right for the CBI to be confronting the Prime Minister and saying what was in that autumn statement for business. As I said at the time, what was the big word missing from it? It begins with G and ends in H, and it's got an R and an O and a W and a TH in it as well. It's called growth. I didn't hear much about that. And that's what they're going to say. And that you get growth because you encourage business, and you encourage business by reducing labour shortages and getting a right kind of environment. So in other words, I said to you last week, and we talked about this, Kwasi Kwarteng was probably right, but not at the right time. Now, it's like we have a famous joke in here about a comedian playing the piano. And he's playing a particular tune. And he said, I played all the right notes, but not necessarily in the right order. That's what the tagline of the joke is. And that's, I think, what was happening with that it was only a month ago, wasn't it, when Kwasi Kwarteng actually stood up and said those things to House of Commons. They're right to go for growth, but you've got to do it so that the markets understand and trust what's going on. It's called financial orthodoxy. And if you break that, then you get a bad response. I'm not saying it's right, and I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just what actually happens. As far as COP's concerned, so you have the following. So you have Pakistan, for example, which has been suffering from floods, saying that's the rest of the developing world's fault. So you need to give us money. How does that work? And who's going to give them money? And how much is it going to be? And when's it going to happen? So why do these people think that this is even a decision that's been reached in COP27? It's a hopeful forecast, but the devil is in the detail as usual, and there ain't any. There's no detail at all.
Well, thank you very much, Michael.